This magical tale begins with our female protagonist, Piao, whose lifelong dream was to get into Yin Yang University. This university is very different from all the other universities in China. It was magical. Only exceptionally talented students were selected to study there. It was the day of her entrance exam, and her grandfather, realizing she was still asleep, decided to wake her up in the most dramatic way possible. He called out to her, reminding her about the exam. Piao, who had been in deep sleep, woke up with the urgency of someone realizing they had left the stove on. Without wasting time, she hurriedly got ready and stepped outside, only to find her grandfather engaged in his daily martial arts practice. Not one to miss an opportunity for some fun, Piao joined him and playfully challenged him to block her move. However, instead of entertaining her, he reminded her to take her painting along. Realizing she had completely forgotten about it, she rushed inside. In her haste, she accidentally picked up one of her grandfather's paintings instead of her own. On her way to the city, Piao crossed a long bridge, but soon found herself completely lost. At that moment, she saw a boy who was lost in his whole world, Wei. He was not only exceptionally talented and famous at Yin Yang University, but also the school council president. When Piao spotted him, she immediately asked him for directions. Wei, being true to his reputation, gave her directions without even looking at her. She, however, found his cold attitude amusing rather than rude, and cheerfully thanked him, calling him a nice person. Later, on her way back home from the entrance exam, she wondered about him, trying to recall his name. As if on cue, a piece of paper flew toward her with his name, Wei, written on it, along with Yin Yang University's official stamp. Deciding it might be important, she kept it. At the same time, over at Yin Yang University, the leaders of the various martial arts factions had gathered for a crucial meeting. The principal had gathered them to make an important announcement that Wei had returned to school. The news shocked Ten, the leader of the boxing group, who couldn't believe Wei was back. He pointed out that Wei had never lost a fight and had always won competitions, preventing their group from ever reaching the top ranks. So, he didn't want Wei to back again, because this way his team would no longer hold the first position. Unable to accept the decision easily, he protested, reminding everyone that Wei had disappeared for a year and that Bai had to take his place as leader. How can he suddenly come and become a leader? However, Bai, a member of Wei's team, had no interest in such conflicts, casually stated that he had no objections and was happy for Wei to reclaim his position. The principal, pleased with the agreement, wished them all good luck and left. Ten, still unwilling to let it go, clarified that it wasn't fear but fairness that had driven his concerns. Bei, however, dismissed his worries, stating that Tai Chi was in both his and Wei's blood and that they wouldn't compromise its principles for power. Realizing there was no way to argue further, Ten finally fell silent. Amid all this, Wei was sitting in a peaceful spot, engrossed in a game of chess against himself. Bai approached him, expressing how happy he was to see him after a year. He admitted that he had initially doubted the principal's claim that Wei had returned. Wei confirmed that he had indeed come back, but revealed that he had given up martial arts and was only there to complete his studies. Bei, taken aback, urged him to return to the Tai Chi group, insisting that they needed him. At this, Wei recalled an incident from a year ago. Something had happened that left his body paralyzed, making it difficult for him to walk. Once the university's top Tai Chi leader, he had suddenly found himself unable to even stand properly. Secretly, he had undergone treatment, and while he had regained mobility, doctors had strictly forbidden him from practicing martial arts. It would take time before he could train again. However, he chose not to disclose this to Bai, simply stating that he wanted to be alone and away from everything for a while. Understanding that Wei had made up his mind, Bai chose not to press further. Elsewhere, two senior girls, Rui and her best friend Jia, were admiring a painting. Rui commented on how breathtaking the painting was. Jia, just as surprised, found it hard to believe that a first-year student had created such a masterpiece. When they checked the name, they were even more astonished to see that it belonged to Piao Minhua. When Piao, who had just started her first day at the university, was admiring the various paintings displayed on campus. Since she had joined the art faculty, she aspired to become a great painter like her grandfather. When she spotted the painting she had unknowingly submitted, she was thrilled. Until she read the name. She was stunned to see her own name on it and wondered how that had happened. Before she could process everything, the art teacher arrived and showered her with praise, announcing that her painting had not only amazed the entire university, but was also trending on the university's page. Piao, at that moment, felt like someone who had accidentally submitted their siblings' homework and gotten the highest grade. That's when it finally clicked. She had mistakenly submitted her grandfather's painting. Rui and Jia immediately started questioning her, skeptical that a junior could create something so masterful. Before Piao could confess the truth, the teacher silenced them, defending her. However, Rui was not one to give up so easily. She asked Piao what had inspired her to create the painting. Piao hesitated, feeling overwhelmed. Her nervousness made her eyes well up with tears, but after a long pause, she finally spoke. She explained that the person in the painting was her grandfather, someone deeply connected to her childhood memories. She described him as a great man who loved her immensely. And just like that, Piao found herself in the middle of a misunderstanding that she had no idea how to get out of. As soon as she left the room in tears, the teacher sighed dramatically and commented on how deeply in love she must be to paint with such precision. Meanwhile, the teacher turned to Rui and complimented the painting, but added with a smirk that it seemed like Piao would soon take her place, given that she was currently ranked #1. This, of course, only fueled Rui's anger, and even her friend Jia looked equally annoyed. In another faculty, a group of girls was engaged in a study session when Xiao suddenly got up to leave. She was on her way to meet Piao, her best friend, but on her way she overheard a conversation about Wei. The girls were gossiping about how Senior Wei had returned to the university after a whole year, and now every girl on campus was excited to see him, because apparently good looks were more valuable than a degree. Meanwhile, in the painting class, the teacher was discussing techniques when Xiao snuck into the room, dodging the teacher's gaze like a ninja, before finally settling into her seat. She immediately leaned over to Piao and informed her that the university's most famous boy was back. Piao looked at Wei's picture but failed to recognize him. However, when she repeated the word handsome at Xiao's insistence, the teacher, clearly misunderstanding the situation, proudly declared that he had been handsome since birth, but had never been arrogant about it. He even joked that the girls must all be secretly in love with him, before adding that he was strictly against student-teacher relationships. Piao and Zhao instantly fell silent, realizing that their innocent conversation had been completely misinterpreted. The name Wei suddenly rang a bell in Piao's mind. She remembered reading it on a piece of paper that probably belonged to that silent boy who had once helped her find her way. This meant that the quiet, mysterious guy was actually Wei. After class, Piao confided in Zhao, explaining how everyone mistakenly believed that her grandfather's painting was actually hers. Zhao sensibly suggested that she should tell the truth, but Piao, fearing she might get expelled, decided against it. After break, Piao, without hesitation, loaded her tray with an outrageous amount of food. Xiao, eyeing the mountain of dishes, raised an eyebrow and asked if she could really eat all of that. Piao, without missing a beat, confidently declared that she absolutely could, because apparently, good food requires no justification. Meanwhile, the painting teacher called Piao to inform her that someone had ruined her painting. He explained that he had planned to use it for an upcoming art exhibition, and now he requested her to recreate the exact same painting. Piao was shocked, not only because someone had vandalized the painting, but also because she hadn't even painted it in the first place. How could she recreate something she had never made? However, after a fair amount of pleading from the teacher, she had no choice but to agree. That night, Piao lay in her hostel room, completely stressed. How was she supposed to create a new painting? Then an idea struck her. Why not take another painting from her grandfather's collection? The only problem was sneaking out of the university since students were only allowed to leave on weekends. But Piao decided to break the rules and sneak out. On the other side of campus, a group of boys was plotting something entirely different. Ten informed his group that since Wei had returned, they needed to teach him a lesson and ensure he never rejoined the Tai Chi faculty. So their boxing faculty could maintain its #1 position. Tai Chi as an elite martial art secretly taught only to a select few and extremely powerful. Meanwhile, Xiao returned to her room and panicked upon realizing that Piao was missing. Piao, on the other hand, had successfully jumped over the university wall, smugly declaring that she only followed her own rules. At the same time, Wei was also walking with a piece of paper in his hand when he was suddenly surrounded by 10 boys. They grinned menacingly and told him that it had been a long time since they last fought, so why not have a little practice session? Piao, who was coincidentally passing by, stopped in her tracks, recognizing Wei instantly. As the boys advanced toward Wei, he simply let the paper slip from his hands, and in that instant they all froze in fear. Because as it turned out, Wei was a legendary fighter, the kind that even nightmares were scared of. Wei casually requested that they not hit his face before dramatically sitting down, as if preparing to get beaten up. Piao, now thoroughly confused, realized that Wei was in trouble. Just as the boys were about to attack, a sudden police siren echoed through the air, sending them running for their lives. It was only later that Wei discovered that the siren had come from Piao's phone. He looked at her in surprise as she dramatically announced her arrival like a superhero. However, Wei, true to his nature, didn't even bother to thank her or look at her for that matter. Annoyed, Piao demanded at least a thank you, but before he could respond, the bullies returned. Panicked, Piao instinctively hid behind Wei. When he told her to move, she outright refused. Then, in a move that left everyone shocked, she ripped Wei's shirt and used it to hide her face, boldly declaring that no one would dare touch this weak boy because he was now under her protection. Wei was stunned beyond words. He and weak? However, when one of the bullies charged at Piao, she effortlessly dodged and countered with a perfect Tai Chi stance. The group watched in shock as she flawlessly fought off her opponent. Her every move was precise, powerful, and smooth. Wei could only stare in disbelief. Who was this girl who had mastered Tai Chi so perfectly? Realizing that they were no match for her, the bullies decided to attack together, but Piao single-handedly defeated them all. Unknown to everyone, she had been secretly trained in Tai Chi by her grandfather, and she was forbidden from revealing her skills. However, to protect Wei, she had no choice but to use her strength. As the last boy attempted a sneak attack, Wei finally intervened, swiftly knocking him down. But in the process, Piao's mask fell off, revealing her face. Wei stared at her, clearly intrigued, perhaps even impressed. Just as Piao grabbed Wei's hand and dragged him along, she casually mentioned that she was only saving him because she had to get home for her painting. Wei, still recovering from the chaos, asked what he was supposed to do about his ripped shirt. Without a care, Piao assured him that she would give him another one, and she handed Wei a shirt. He curiously asked how she had managed to leave the university when Tai Chi faculty students weren't allowed out on weekdays. Smirking, Piao revealed that she wasn't a Tai Chi student at all. Wei, now even more intrigued, asked if she had failed the entrance exam for Tai Chi. Piao, irritated by his endless questions, snapped at him to mind his own business, wear the shirt, and leave. As he walked away, Wei thought to himself that she was quite rude, while Piao, watching him go, wondered why it took 10 guys to try and beat up someone who looked so weak. As soon as Piao entered the house, it became clear that Grandpa had overheard everything since he was sitting right there. Without wasting a moment, he started questioning her about the boy she was with, directly asking if she had gotten a boyfriend. Piao, taken aback, immediately clarified that there was nothing of the sort. She explained that she was merely helping out a weak boy who had landed himself in trouble and assured Grandpa not to worry, as she had used her powers while keeping her face hidden. At this, Grandpa nodded but reminded her that he had taught her Tai Chi for self-protection, not for rescuing others. However, he couldn't resist adding that the boy was handsome and that she might as well consider dating him. Piao, utterly unimpressed, rejected the idea outright, calling the boy extremely rude since he hadn't even bothered to thank her for her help. Inside the house, Grandpa then turned his attention to another matter, asking why she had come home so late. Piao was about to tell him about her entrance exam success, which had only happened because of his painting, but she decided to keep that detail to herself. Instead, she simply mentioned that she had accidentally taken his painting, which her teacher had liked so much that he wanted to see another one. After much persuasion, Grandpa finally agreed to give her another painting. Overjoyed, Piao ran off screaming in excitement, making Grandpa smile at her childlike enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Wei had returned home but was still lost in thoughts about Piao. She was the first girl who had ever managed to capture his attention. Recalling that she had come for a painting, he concluded that she must be from the art faculty. Out of curiosity, he checked the list of students and found her name. However, he was puzzled as to why someone with such smooth, precise movements was in the art faculty instead of Tai Chi. This led him to suspect that she might be deliberately hiding her talent. On the other hand, Tan was furiously beating up his teammate for failing to teach Wei a lesson. The teammate defended himself, saying that a girl had interfered. This only enraged Tan further, and he demanded to know why they couldn't handle a single girl despite being in a group. The teammate, still nursing his bruises, explained that the girl wasn't ordinary. She knew Tai Chi, and she had single-handedly defeated all of them. Hearing this, Tan was deep in thought. There was no such powerful girl in the faculty, and Tai Chi wasn't taught to outsiders. Determined to uncover her identity, he ordered his men to find her as soon as possible. To wrap up the conversation, he gave his teammate one final powerful kick, because what's a villainous leader without a dramatic exit? Meanwhile, Piao delivered Grandpa's painting to her teacher. As she was leaving, she called Xiao to ask for Wei's home address, as she wanted to talk to him about the previous night. At the same time, Rui and Jia were discussing whether Wei would like Rui's painting. Jia reassured her that he would, since she had worked on it all night. Just then, they spotted Piao near Wei's house and stopped her to ask where she was going. When she revealed that she was heading to Senior Wei's house, both of them became curious and asked why Piao casually mentioned that it was a personal matter and confirmed his house's location. However, the two girls mischievously gave her different locations each time she asked. Amused, Piao thanked them and left, unaware that they had deliberately misled her. As soon as she was gone, Rui instructed Jia to follow her while she herself rushed to Wei's house. After waiting outside for a long time with no response, she realized he wasn't home. Sighing, she mumbled to herself about how he had suddenly disappeared a year ago, causing her much worry. Now that he was back, she wanted to see him, making it clear that her feelings for him were still strong. Piao was still searching for Wei's house. Meanwhile, Wei walked silently along the same path, lost in the doctor's warning that he should avoid practicing martial arts. Just then, Piao arrived and tried to talk to him, but Wei didn't even glance at her. Annoyed, she called out to him, asking whether he couldn't see that someone was talking to him. At this, Wei smirked and sarcastically acknowledged her, calling her the masked heroine who single-handedly beat up a gang of boys. Rolling her eyes, Piao shoved him backward and glared at him. Shocked, Wei tried to move away, but she pushed him back again, leaving him utterly bewildered. Raising her finger at him, she issued a warning. If he dared tell anyone that she knew Taiji, he would regret it. She dramatically added that she might even turn him into a pulp, or worse, eliminate him entirely. Wei, now both amused and slightly scared, looked at her in astonishment. As she walked away, he casually remarked that he would think about it. Piao immediately snapped back, saying there was nothing to think about. He simply wasn't allowed to tell anyone. Turning to leave in a huff, she couldn't resist glancing back at him. To her annoyance, he was laughing. Apparently, he found her cute. Once she was gone, he sighed in relief. Her fiery energy had somehow lifted his mood. Unbeknownst to them, Jia had secretly taken their photos. The next day again, Ten was trying to convince the principal to shut down the Tai Chi faculty, arguing that it had too few students, none of whom were improving. Bai, irritated, questioned why Ten was always fixated on Tai Chi. Did he forget that it was once the most awarded faculty? Ten smugly replied that those were the old days, when Wei was the leader. Since Wei was no longer there, he pushed for a competition between their faculties to prove which was superior. If Tai Chi lost, they would have to vacate their space. Bai grew furious because without Wei, their faculty indeed hadn't been able to improve. Winning against the boxing faculty seemed impossible. Meanwhile, Piao was in her room when her best friend Xiao barged in, demanding to know when she had met Wei. Shocked, Piao asked how she knew about it. Xiao simply showed her phone, where their photos had gone viral in the university group. Furious, Piao wanted to complain, but Xiao stopped her, warning that no one would listen to her and she would only end up looking guilty. Instead, she tried to calm her down by offering her favorite chips, because food solves everything in this drama. The next morning, as Piao stepped out, Jiao confronted her, asking what her relationship with Wei was. At first, Piao denied being the girl in the photos. However, when Jia showed more pictures and other girls gathered around, she knew she had to do something. Before anyone could escalate the drama, someone tossed a dice, causing Jia's phone to fall. As the girls stared at the scattered photos, they realized Jia had uploaded them to the group, probably at Rui's command. Rui then stepped forward, ready to argue. However, instead of fighting, Piao dramatically burst into tears, apologizing for disturbing their idol, Wei. Completely taken aback, Rui found herself at a loss for words. As the girls dispersed, Piao cheerfully stood up, laughing that she should probably join the acting faculty since she was clearly a natural. Meanwhile, Rui scolded Jia for posting the pictures. Jia defended herself, saying she had wanted to trap Piao in a scandal so Wei's fangirls would turn against her. Rui, however, was furious. Instead of ruining Piao, Jia had ended up making her more popular, linking her name to Wei's in a way she couldn't tolerate. Fuming, she stormed off. As Piao was walking away, she mentioned that she might have gone overboard with the chili powder on the eyes. Hearing this, Wei spoke from behind, questioning who had even told her to do something so foolish. Piao then turned to him and asked why he was there. In response, Wei stated that he had been watching her acting. Piao, frowning, questioned why he had not supported her at that moment and clarified to everyone that nothing was going on between them. To this, Wei simply replied that he did not involve himself in girls' foolish fights. As Piao was about to point her finger at him again, Wei interrupted her, asking her to let him speak first. He reminded her that she had come to him the previous day. Wanting to keep it a secret that she knew Tai Chi Piao, now cautious, urged him to lower his voice, fearing that someone might overhear them. In response, Wei assured her that he was willing to keep her secret. Hearing this, Piao was both surprised and pleased. She asked him if he truly intended to do so and whether there was a specific reason behind his willingness to help. Wei responded that since she had helped him before, he was now returning the favor. Piao, raising an eyebrow, pointed out that he actually remembered her helping him. Wei simply smiled at her words before handing back her shirt. Taking it, Piao stated that things were now even between them, meaning they would never meet again. She added that from then on they would remain strangers in the university, as if they had never known each other. Saying this, she turned and walked away. After she left, Wei stood silently, recalling that he had been the one to knock down Jia's phone with a dice, his small way of helping Piao. Later, Wei arrived at the Tai Chi faculty and carefully observed the place, reminiscing about the many memories he had there. At that moment, students and Bai came outside, excited to see him, as if he had returned for good. However, Wei quickly clarified that he was only there to collect his belongings. Some students, growing frustrated, questioned how he could do this to them. They pointed out that since his departure, they warned that if no improvements were made, the faculty might soon be shut down. Despite hearing all this, Wei remained silent. Taking off his Tai Chi badge, he handed it to Bai, signifying that he was severing all ties with the faculty. As he turned to leave, the students desperately pleaded with him not to go, urging their leader to stay. However, Wei did not stop. Instead, he simply apologized and walked away. Meanwhile, Piao had planned to meet Xiao after class to go somewhere together. However, at the last moment, Xiao refused, saying she had something else to take care of. Piao, frustrated, remarked that she had no idea what had been keeping her so busy lately. Just then, it started raining. As she hurried to find shelter, she accidentally bumped into none other than Wei. Piao was taken aback, while Wei, amused, remarked that he was glad to see her again. Piao, unimpressed, retorted that she did not feel the same way. She pointed out that the college was large enough for him to find shelter elsewhere and questioned why he had chosen to stand there. Wei casually replied that if she was so bothered by his presence, she was free to leave. Annoyed, Piao turned to walk away, but the heavy rain forced her to return. At that moment, Bai called Wei and informed him that the boxing faculty was searching for a mysterious girl who was said to be a Tai Chi master. Bai then asked Wei if he had any knowledge of the matter. Wei immediately denied having any knowledge of the situation and began observing Piao closely. As fate would have it, she was the girl in question. Meanwhile, Piao was shivering from the cold, having already caught a chill. However, upon noticing Wei's discomfort, she assumed he was troubled by her sneezing, so she deliberately sneezed near him and teased whether he was afraid of catching a virus. Without uttering a single word, Wei simply handed his bag to her before taking off his coat and draping it over her shoulders to keep her warm. Piao was taken aback as no one had ever shown her such concern before, and though she wouldn't admit it, she secretly liked it. However, Wei made sure to remind her not to forget to return the coat before walking away, leaving Piao standing there in surprise, still processing what had just happened. Meanwhile, the students from the boxing faculty arrived to challenge the Tai Chi faculty, making it clear that if they won, 5 Tai Chi students would have to transfer to their department. Bei, seeing through their scheme, remarked with a smirk that their real motive was to weaken their faculty's numbers, knowing that any faculty with fewer than 10 students would be shut down. The boxing students taunted him, asking if he was scared. Initially reluctant, Bei eventually agreed, but made it clear that if they lost, the transfer would happen. But if they won, the boxing faculty would have to apologize publicly. Tan added with an air of confidence that as long as he was there, losing was not an option. Later, Piao returned to her dorm, still carrying Wei's coat. Her overly curious roommate, Zhao, immediately bombarded her with questions, demanding to know where the coat had come from, whose it was, and who had given it to her. As Piao tried to dodge the interrogation, both of them suddenly noticed a burning smell, only to realize, to their horror, that the coat had been scorched by the iron. Panic ensued as they stared at the damaged coat, their faces a mix of shock and dread. Piao, at that moment, felt like she had just committed a crime punishable by social humiliation. That night, Piao nervously knocked on Wei's door to return the coat, hesitantly asking whether it was expensive. Wei casually mentioned that it was a designer limited edition. Gulping, Piao nervously inquired how much it would cost to repair a small hole, perhaps $100 or $200? Wei laughed, stating that such an amount would barely cover the buttons. Realization dawned upon him as he inspected the coat. She had burned it. With a smirk, he accepted it, but warned that she would be paying for every single cent of its worth before shutting the door in her face. Piao remained outside, repeatedly murmuring apologies to herself, as if chanting a prayer for forgiveness. The next day, Piao remained preoccupied with figuring out how to compensate Wei for the coat. When Xiao invited her to the cafeteria, declining the invitation, Piao stayed behind, while Xiao went ahead alone. However, at the counter, Xiao realized she had forgotten her badge. Bai, having arrived at the scene, understood the situation instantly and assured her that he would cover it. Though Xiao insisted she would transfer the money later, Bai casually told her to consider it a treat. Delighted by his gesture, Xiao couldn't help but sneak glances at him while eating, convinced that he was possibly the nicest guy she had ever met, perhaps even too good to be real. Meanwhile, the boxing faculty students were scheming. Just before the competition, they approached Bai with mocking remarks, questioning whether he was ready to lose. Bai merely smirked and told them that he would answer in the ring. Unbeknownst to him, one of the students secretly spiked his water. Another snickered, commenting that it was unfortunate Wei had abandoned him, leaving him to bear all the responsibility alone. Bei, saying nothing, deliberately drank the poisoned water. Unfortunately, Jiao, who had been watching, failed to notice the tampering. Soon enough, Bei collapsed, struggling to breathe, sending the place into chaos as an ambulance was called. As the competition commenced, the audience murmured anxiously, questioning whether the Taiji faculty could even hope to win. Piao, unable to ignore the tension, eventually decided to attend, though she promised herself she would watch from a distance. As the match began, the Tai Chi students struggled against their opponents, and Piao couldn't help but comment that one of them fought as if he had never even learned Tai Chi. Meanwhile, Wei arrived just in time to witness the faculty losing, watching the match in silence. Just as all hope seems lost, a voice interrupted the fight. Two newcomers stepped forward, presenting their admission forms and declaring their right to participate. They were Bing and Arya, descendants of a prestigious Tai Chi lineage. Even Tan, the leader of the boxing faculty, was momentarily taken aback by their sudden arrival. Once permitted to fight, Bing stepped into the ring. The match barely lasted, as his movements were so powerful that his opponent from the boxing faculty could hardly hold his ground. Piao, intrigued, quickly began recording his moves, which did not escape Wei's attention. Within moments, Bing had completely overpowered his opponent, remarking sarcastically whether that was the best they had to offer. With that, he was declared the winner, securing victory for the Taiji faculty. The audience erupted in cheers while Tan's expression soured considerably. Later, Piao sent the recorded footage to her grandfather, questioning why Bing's movements were identical to the ones he had taught her. Her grandfather immediately warned her that the two belonged to a family that had been the sole protectors of Tai Chi martial arts for generations and advised her to stay away from them. Agreeing, Piao turned her attention back to Tan, who had approached Bing and Arya, acknowledging their impressive skills and suggesting that they should have joined his faculty instead. Arya, unimpressed, retorted that if Tan considered them strong, perhaps he should train his students better so that they actually stood a chance next time. Tan smirked before bringing up another issue. He revealed that there was a girl on campus who had mastered Tai Chi to an impressive degree, single-handedly defeating multiple opponents. Given their family's strict traditions, he suggested that they should investigate her identity, as an outsider mastering their secrets could pose a significant problem. Bing and Arya exchanged glances, realizing that if this information was true, it was indeed a serious matter. Tan added that the girl was not from the Tai Chi faculty but was somewhere in the university, hiding her abilities. He then proposed that they join forces to find her. After a moment of silence, Arya and Bing simply stated that they would think about it, before Tan walked away. Having eavesdropped on the entire conversation, Piao immediately panicked, realizing that she was now being hunted. Without hesitation, she hurried away, muttering to herself that this was turning into a disaster. Bing then turned to Arya, asking whether he believed Tan's claims. Arya sighed, admitting he wasn't sure, but agreeing that if it was true, they needed to find the girl. Meanwhile, Piao, lost in thought, was suddenly approached by Wei, who casually pointed out that Bing and Arya were bad news. Then, with a smirk, he added that no one would ever suspect her of knowing martial arts. After all, she looked far too silly and childish. Annoyed, Piao snapped back, asking whether she had asked for his opinion and why he was even following her in the first place. Huffing, she stomped off, leaving Wei chuckling behind her. He visits Bai in the hospital. Bai assumes they must have lost the competition, but when Wei informs him that they actually won, Bai is left completely shocked. How was that even possible? Wei explains that it was because he had already invited Arya and Bing to their university. As for Bai's condition and who poisoned him, Wei firmly declares that he will find out the truth. Meanwhile, Arya and Bing visit Tan, who hands them profiles of 100 girls from the university. He tells them that the mysterious Tai Chi master girl has a height and body shape similar to these girls, meaning she must be among them. Bing, puzzled, asks how they're supposed to find her among 100 students. Tan responds seriously, saying that this is not just any matter, it concerns their family business, which is being stolen. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Arya and Bing agree that no matter how hard they have to work, they will track down the mysterious girl and uncover how she learned their family's secret: Tai Chi martial arts. Meanwhile, Piao is in her room, relaxing, when her roommate Zhao rushes in, exclaiming, "Do you even know what just happened?" Piao, confused, asks what she's talking about. Zhao excitedly reveals that one of the two new Tai Chi faculty students, Bing, went to the girls' swimming pool. A flashback begins, showing how Bing was carefully observing the girls, trying to identify the mysterious Tai Chi master based solely on height and body shape. As he scans the crowd, his gaze lands on a girl stepping out of the pool. He watches her closely, and the girl, noticing this, teases him. "So, have you stared enough? Tell me, how do I look?" Just as Bing is about to compliment her, she playfully places her hand on his shoulder. But driven by his martial arts instincts, he instinctively lifts her and throws her into the pool. Realizing what he has done, he stands there awkwardly as the other girls glare at him in anger. The furious girls refuse to let him leave, demanding an explanation. Bing tries to defend himself, saying it was an instinctive reaction, something ingrained in him since childhood. Just then, Arya arrives, looking furious, and demands to know why he was staring at the girls. Bing, unfazed, explains that he was simply searching for the mysterious girl and had no other intentions. Arya, unimpressed, grabs his hand and drags him away. But before they can leave, the girl whom Bing had accidentally thrown into the pool steps forward, declaring that she won't let him off so easily. Arya, irritated, snaps that Bing has already apologized and didn't do it on purpose, so there's no need to overreact. At that moment, Wei arrives. Since he is the student council president, the girls had called him to ensure justice was served. Wei calmly states that he will talk to Arya and Bing privately. Only then do the girls let them go. Back in the present, Xiao tells Piao about everything that happened and laughs, calling it hilarious. "I wonder who this mysterious girl is that they're searching for," she muses. Piao, forcing a laugh, secretly panics. What if Arya and Bing actually find out that she's the one they're looking for? The situation is becoming more serious by the day. Meanwhile, Wei questions Arya and Bing about their true intentions. They admit that they are searching for a mysterious Tai Chi master girl who has mastered their family's special hidden Tai Chi martial arts. They learned about her from Tang. Wei, skeptical, asks why they would believe Tang's words. After all, he is their rival and could be spreading these rumors to tarnish the Tai Chi faculty's reputation. This leaves Arya and Bing momentarily speechless. Wei then shifts their focus back to the Tai Chi faculty and reminds them of their recent actions. Since Bing had thrown a girl into the water and Arya had displayed arrogance toward the same girl, Wei decided to punish them by making them clean the swimming pool. Hearing this, the two become disheartened. After school, Wei went to see his grandmother. She inquires about his health and then begins talking about the secrets of Tai Chi martial arts and its traditions. Wei, frustrated, comments that these rigid traditions are precisely why Tai Chi is fading away so quickly. His grandmother, however, corrects him, saying that it's not the traditions but Feng Ji who are responsible for this decline. At this, Wei recalls the past events that led to his current illness. A flashback shows that someone had kidnapped Wei, Bai, Arya, and Bing. As they attempted to escape, a man named Feng Ji appeared before them. He declared that since they all belonged to families that claimed sole ownership over Tai Chi martial arts, he wanted to eliminate them. The story then returns to the present without revealing what happened next. Instead of discussing the past further, Wei shifts the conversation and asks about his grandmother's health. Meanwhile, Piao was sitting in her room. Suddenly, Xiao excitedly brings up the online voting happening at Yingyang University. Students are voting for the most handsome and gentlemanly boy, as well as the prettiest girl. To Piao's shock, she is ranked second. She exclaims in disbelief, "Who even voted for me?" Xiao speculates that it might be because of the viral incident involving Piao and Wei's photo. Since some people believe they are dating, many students have started supporting her. Piao is left completely bewildered, realizing how quickly rumors can spread. The next day, Xiao showed up with soup for Bai. Bai, looking a bit confused, asked if she was the one who had taken him to the hospital and what her name was. She introduced herself as Xiao and proudly declared that she had made soup for him. Bai, still recovering, thanked her, making her light up like a festival lantern. Just as she was about to feed him the soup herself, disaster struck. She accidentally spilled it all over him. Horrified, Xiao began apologizing non-stop as if her life depended on it. Bai reassured her that it was okay, but just then their hands touched. That was it. Xiao blushed so hard she looked like a ripe tomato, quickly muttered a shy goodbye and ran off. Meanwhile, Bing and Arya were analyzing paintings when Bing, after staring at one for a moment, dramatically declared that it had to be the work of someone skilled in Tai Chi. Arya, skeptical, asked how he could be so sure. Bing, with all the seriousness of a detective in a crime thriller, explained that certain details in the painting could only be created by someone with deep knowledge of Tai Chi. They decided to keep an eye on Piao, suspecting she might be the mysterious girl they were searching for. On the other side, Rue and Jia were busy discussing the online voting results, with Rue confidently predicting her own victory. Seeing Piao, she couldn't resist making a snide remark, saying that if Piao thought she had a chance at winning, she was living in a fantasy world. Just then, Wei walked into the class and, to everyone's surprise, asked the teacher if he could attend. But the teacher told him that he could only stay if he correctly defined a word. Wei, proving he was more than just looks, answered it flawlessly, earning his place in the class. Wasting no time, Wei walked over to Xiao and politely asked her to move so he could sit next to Piao. Xiao, raising an eyebrow, questioned why he insisted on that particular seat. Piao also wasn't thrilled and refused to move, but Wei was persistent and didn't give up. Eventually, Xiao gave in, allowing Wei to sit beside Piao. Meanwhile, Rue was delighted to see him, but her mood quickly soured when she noticed how comfortably Piao and Wei were talking. Piao, annoyed, asked Wei why he was following her and even showing up in her class. Wei informed her that Arya and Bing were waiting outside to confront her, and he had swooped in to save her. Then, with a teasing smirk, he asked if she had brought chili water again. Piao, caught off guard, could only stare in disbelief. As class started, the teacher threw a difficult question at Piao, who struggled to answer. Before she could embarrass herself further, Wei effortlessly gave the correct response, explaining it so well that the teacher was visibly impressed. The teacher, with the kind of admiration usually reserved for prodigies, praised Wei for being intelligent in every aspect. Piao, meanwhile, was left wondering how he knew everything. After class, as Wei and Piao walked together, Arya and Bing observed them from a distance, while Jia and Rui secretly followed. Wei had a cunning plan. Piao would pretend to trip and grab his hand, making Arya and Bing believe she wasn't the mysterious girl they were after. Though reluctant, Piao played along. As planned, she grabbed Wei's hand, and right on cue, Jia and Rui fumed with jealousy. Unable to contain her frustration, Jia suddenly kicked Piao. Piao stumbled, but before she could hit the ground, Wei caught her, bringing them dangerously close. Arya and Bing, stunned, asked if they were okay. Wei casually assured them that they were fine, then, still holding Piao, announced that he was taking her to the medical room. Without waiting for a response, he whisked her away. Meanwhile, Zhao had secretly recorded the entire scene, clearly enjoying the drama. Bing, after watching the whole situation unfold, confidently concluded that Piao was too weak to be the mysterious girl they were looking for. Rui, watching from afar, sulked, realizing that Jia's kick had backfired. Wei and Piao had only gotten closer. Later, Piao continued pretending to be injured until Wei, clearly amused, told her to drop the act. He smugly reminded her that she should thank him, since Arya and Bing no longer suspected her. Piao, however, had bigger problems. Her eyes were still watering because of the chili water she used to play more dramatically. Seizing the opportunity, Wei teased her, saying that she must have enjoyed hugging him. Piao shot him a death glare. Laughing, Wei told her not to look at him as if he had just broken up with her. Piao, now completely fed up, snapped at him, asking if he truly believed he was the most handsome man in the world. Wei, delighted, smirked and asked if she was flirting with him in broad daylight. Piao, at a complete loss for words, could only mutter that he was insufferable before storming off. Wei, watching her leave, couldn't help but grin. He was starting to enjoy making her flustered. Later that evening, Piao returned to her room, still fuming. Xiao, meanwhile, checked the online voting results and excitedly revealed that Wei had ranked first among the boys, unsurprising since he always did. However, the shocking part was that Piao had ranked first among the girls. Piao, hearing this, was left in total disbelief. The next day, Piao walked into class, only to find everyone staring at her and whispering about how she had managed to get the most votes. Some even speculated about her relationship with Wei. Xiao then revealed that someone had taken pictures of Piao with Wei and uploaded them online, making it look like she had confessed to him. Piao, now completely frustrated, muttered that she had come here just to study, but thanks to Wei, her life was turning into a full-blown soap opera. Meanwhile, Wei was seen visiting a doctor who advised him to continue resting and stay away from martial arts for now. In the hospital, Zhao once again brought chicken soup for Bai, offering to help with anything else he needed, books, laundry, errands. She was more than willing. Bai politely refused, saying he was already feeling much better. Zhao, however, insisted that he should at least try her soup. Bai, remembering how awful it had been the last time, hesitated. But not wanting to crush her enthusiasm, he silently braced himself and took a sip, mentally preparing for the worst. Xiao thought she had made a great soup, but the moment she tasted it, she immediately spit it out. It was only then that she realized the soup she had brought yesterday was just as terrible. Embarrassed beyond words, she had no idea what to do, so she just kept apologizing to Bai before making a swift exit. Meanwhile, Piao was on her way to class when she got distracted by Wei's photo and decided to ruin it. At the same time, Wei, who had come to check the CCTV footage, finally found the clip he had been looking for. Proof that the boxing faculty students had poisoned Pai's drink. Without wasting time, he asked the guard to send the clip to his number. Before he could celebrate his discovery, he noticed Piao vandalizing his photo. Watching her passionately destroy his picture, he couldn't help but laugh. Piao, having successfully defaced the photo, quickly hid behind a boat upon seeing Rui and Jia approaching. Rui immediately noticed that someone had ruined her crush Wei's photo and, in a fit of rage, yelled, demanding to know who had dared to do such a thing. However, when Wei also arrived at the scene, she suddenly went silent and sweetly greeted him instead. Wei looked at the photo and casually remarked that whoever had drawn on it had done a good job. This left Jia puzzled, prompting her to ask how he could possibly like such a thing. Before she could get an answer, Rui quickly silenced her, insisting that if Senior Wei was praising it, then it must be good. With that, they both left. However, Wei had already spotted Piao's feet sticking out from behind the boat and called for her to come out. Piao, unwilling to give up her hideout, remained silent, hoping he would leave, but after a long silence, she assumed he was gone and peeked out, only to find him still standing there, watching her. Amused by her reaction, he chuckled and casually mentioned that an insect was about to fall on her head. Without thinking, Piao shrieked and jumped out, only to glare at him in anger. She demanded to know what his problem was, to which Wei countered by asking why she hated him so much that she destroyed his entire photo. Piao, putting on her best innocent act, denied any involvement and asked him for proof. Without a word, Wei simply pointed to the CCTV camera. Seeing the undeniable evidence, Piao gave up and admitted, albeit dramatically, that she had done it. Claiming she was suddenly overwhelmed by the urge to draw pleading, she begged him not to report her to the principal. Wei, enjoying her desperation, smugly replied that it would be decided later and walked away like a villain in a slow-motion scene. Later, Wei went to confront Tan, the leader of the boxing faculty, about his students poisoning Pai's drink. Tan, of course, feigned innocence despite having been the one to give the order, but Wei, ever prepared, revealed that he had CCTV footage showing everything clearly. This revelation made Tan visibly nervous, as he had no idea about the existence of this footage. The principal scolds Tan's students, warning that they would be kept under close watch from now on. Additionally, some points were deducted from the boxing faculty, making Tan furious. He glared at Wei with murderous intensity, knowing full well that all of this was his fault. Meanwhile, Bing was helping Tai's students with practice when Bai returned from the hospital, fully recovered. Seeing him back, both Bing and Arya were overjoyed and expressed their happiness. Bai assured them he was much better now, and later went to meet Wei, who was practicing Tai Chi. Wei was relieved to see him well, but Bai, still concerned, questioned why Wei had disappeared after the incident, and why he was so secretive about what was going on in his life. This triggered a flashback, showing the moment when Fenji had kidnapped Wei, Bai, Arya, and Changbing, leading to an intense fight. During the battle, Wei faced off against Fenji, who seemed to have a personal vendetta against his chest, attacking it repeatedly. As the fight dragged on, Wei's condition worsened, but he refused to give up. However, when Fenji aimed for Bai, Wei instinctively protected him, only to have his leg struck so hard that the cracking of his bone was heard loud and clear. Everyone panicked and rushed to him, but even in agony, Wei stubbornly declared that he was fine. The fight resumed, and despite being repeatedly battered, Wei refused to back down. He mustered all his strength, and just as Fengyi was about to win, the police arrived, forcing him to flee back in the present. Bai went to see Wei and scolded him for always worrying about others, while never letting anyone worry about him. Wei, exhausted, simply stated that he was too tired and just wanted to rest. He advised Bai, who had just come back from the hospital, to rest as well. After Bai left, Wei recalled the aftermath of the Fengji fight, how he had returned home in such a terrible condition that he could barely walk. That was the reason he had vanished for an entire year to undergo treatment, a secret only his grandmother knew. The next day, Piao was walking somewhere when she noticed Wei waiting ahead, as if he had been expecting her. Panicking, she quickly hid her face and tried to walk past him unnoticed. However, Wei called out to her, prompting her to grumble about why he kept appearing in front of her and what exactly he wanted. Wei, completely unfazed, simply informed her that her shoelace was untied. Mortified, Piao quickly covered up her embarrassment, pretending it was no big deal. But when Wei teasingly remarked that it was his responsibility to look after clueless junior students like her, she snapped back, calling him out for talking too much and questioning why she was even engaging with him. However, as fate would have it, she tripped and fell right onto Wei. This, of course, led to all her belongings scattering on the ground. Blushing furiously, she quickly picked up her things and hurried off, only to realize she was going in the wrong direction. Watching her flustered antics, Wei couldn't hold back his laughter and casually commented that she was ridiculously cute before heading off himself. Later, in the library, Piao was searching for a book when she overheard Wei, Arya, and Bing talking. To her surprise, they were addressing Wei as master, leaving her completely shocked. Until now, all she knew about him was that he was good-looking and had every girl crushing on him. But now, she had just discovered that he was actually the former leader of the Tai Chi faculty. Curious, Piao blocked Wei's path and interrogated him, demanding to know why Arya and Bing called him master and whether he actually knew martial arts. Wei, playing dumb, denied everything and pretended to be a weakling. But as he tried to walk away, Piao refused to let him go, insisting that she had misunderstood him all this time. With mock surprise, Wei sarcastically asked if she had a brain capable of processing such thoughts too, earning himself an annoyed glare from Piao. Just as she was about to argue, she tripped yet again and fell right onto Wei, stuck in an awkwardly close position. She froze in place. After a long pause, Wei raised an eyebrow and asked how long she planned to stay like that. Realizing their position, Piao immediately jumped back and muttered a hasty apology. Wei, clearly enjoying her embarrassment, smirked and remarked that she seemed to be developing a habit of falling on him. Piao quickly denied it, claiming she always stayed away from arrogant guys like him. She even mentioned how her grandfather always told her that while she was physically strong, her mind was still underdeveloped. Without missing a beat, Wei nodded in agreement, saying, "For once, your grandpa is absolutely right." Haha. Piao, momentarily stunned, promised that she would prove him wrong before storming off. As she left, Wei watched her go, unable to hide his amusement. Piao was now on a mission. When Wei engrossed in his book, she repeatedly attacked him, sometimes with star-shaped objects, sometimes with other creations, all of which Wei effortlessly catches. No matter how many times she tries, he manages to intercept every attack. Eventually, she sits in front of him and, with a determined expression, challenges him to a fight. Seeing her enthusiasm, Wei gets up and, in a dramatic tone, agrees. He tells her to go ahead and fulfill her wish, but to kindly avoid attacking his face. Just as Piao is about to strike, she halts abruptly, confessing that hitting him didn't feel right. She then wonders aloud how he always manages to look so innocent despite being quite cunning on the inside. Unable to resist, she lightly taps his nose before walking away with a playful threat, stating that she would deal with him later. Later, as Wei is leaving, Piao, with all the confidence in the world, decides to attack him from behind, assuming he will dodge it with ease. However, her assumption proves wildly incorrect, as poor Wei, with his not-so-athletic build, falls badly, injuring his already weak leg. Upon realizing the disaster she caused, Piao panics and bombards him with apologies, explaining that she genuinely thought he would save himself. Despite her desperate pleas for forgiveness, Wei remains silent after Piao takes Wei to the medical room, drawing the attention of everyone around them. Wei, not thrilled about the public display, insists that she take him to his personal doctor. Respecting his wishes, she takes him there, where his doctor, after a quick examination, immediately sees through Wei's act. Knowing exactly what Wei is up to, he decides to play along and gravely informs Piao that Wei's leg injury is severe and will take an entire year to heal. He adds that the first few months will be agonizing, and to top it all off, laments that Wei has no one to take care of him. Then, as if on cue, he leaves to fetch some supplies. Feeling incredibly guilty, Piao declares that since it was her fault, she would take care of Wei for the next few months. Though Wei remains outwardly composed, internally he is celebrating like he just won the lottery. Soon after, he asks for Piao's phone, intending to add her on WeChat. However, upon seeing her profile picture, he can't help but comment that it doesn't suit her personality and suggests she change it. Piao, unimpressed by his critique, pouts and retorts that she likes it and has no intention of changing it. As Piao is leaving, she bumps into the doctor again, who, with a knowing smile, remarks that it's the first time Wei has ever brought someone along, especially a girl. He jokingly suggests that Piao must be very special to Wei, causing her to immediately deny any such implication. But before she can escape, the doctor hands her Wei's medicine and, in a completely unnecessary yet highly suspicious gesture, also provides detailed information on Wei's food preferences. He cheekily adds that this information might be useful in the future. As he walks away, Piao mutters under her breath that Wei's injury is only on his leg, yet the doctor made it sound like he needed full-body treatment. That night, Wei hands Piao his house card, reminding her of her promise to take care of him. Without much choice, she takes it. He then informs her that she has no classes the next day and instructs her to come over and cook, adding that she should also bring groceries since he has run out of them. Piao, despite her growing suspicion that she has just been tricked into running errands, agrees. The next day, as Piao is picking up groceries, she accidentally drops some fruits and begins collecting them. Meanwhile, Arya and Bing pass by, discussing how Senior Wei got injured. Bing comments that he heard Wei fall down the stairs, to which Arya responds that Wei had just returned from the hospital and already managed to hurt himself again. As they continue talking, they notice Piao and help her pick up the fruits. Determined to get to Wei's house before anyone spots her, Piao tries to hurry, but just then she is approached by Tan, who recognizes her and greets her. Upon noticing the groceries, he casually asks if she is taking them to Wei. When Piao hesitates, he confidently declares that the fruits she has are Wei's favorites, and since he lives nearby, he might as well drop her off. Before she could refuse, he picks up the groceries and insists on accompanying her. Meanwhile, at Wei's house, Arya and Bing arrive to check on him. At the same time, Piao reaches the entrance, but, not wanting to use the door card in front of Tan, rings the bell instead. Bing, seeing her outside, opens the door and invites her in. However, upon spotting Tan with her, he finds the situation rather suspicious. Inside, Piao mentally panics, realizing that the very people she wanted to avoid seeing her have now caught her at Wei's place. Arya, clearly taken aback, immediately questions her presence. Before Piao can fumble for an excuse, Wei calmly states that she is there to cook for him. Then, as if to add another shock, he turns to her and asks why she didn't use the door card. Arya and Bing, hearing this, are left speechless. Processing the information, they exclaim in unison, "Wait, you have a door card? So the rumors are true? You two like each other?" Bing, fully embracing the drama, immediately greets Piao as sister-in-law. While Arya follows suit, Piao, utterly exasperated, tries to explain that they have misunderstood, that they will keep their secret dating life confidential. She desperately attempts to clarify that she is only here because Wei is injured, but before she can finish, Wei casually silences her and directs her to the kitchen. Watching her leave, Arya and Bing exchange triumphant smiles, thrilled that Wei, at long last, seems to be dating someone. When Piao entered the kitchen, Bing commented that it wouldn't be right to interrupt her and Wei's special moment. Saying this, he and Arya decided to leave. However, while bidding Piao goodbye, they teasingly addressed her as sister-in-law, which left her feeling extremely awkward. Unable to ignore it, she stepped outside and asked Wei why he hadn't bothered to clear up their misunderstanding. Wei, acting as if it was the most ridiculous question, replied that he was supposed to choose between telling them she was the mysterious girl they were looking for or complaining that she was the reason he got injured. Piao, left speechless, was about to argue when suddenly the smell of something burning filled the air. Wei immediately asked what was on fire, and Piao, panicking, realized her dish had turned into charcoal. Without wasting another second, she dashed inside to salvage the disaster. Later, Piao somehow managed to prepare an entire meal. Meanwhile, Wei received a call from Bai, who wasted no time teasing him. Bai gleefully informed him that Bing had shared some exciting news. Piao was at his house, cooking for him, and he demanded to know what was really going on between them. Annoyed, Wei brushed it off, saying there was nothing of the sort, she was simply helping him out. Before Bai could dig deeper, Wei abruptly cut the call, clearly not in the mood for further teasing. When he turned back, he was shocked to see the bizarre assortment of dishes Piao had prepared. At first, he refused to eat, but after persistent pleading, he reluctantly took a bite. Just as he was about to eat, Piao nervously warned him multiple times not to drop the food, making him even more skeptical. Finically, he tasted it and, for a moment, remained completely silent. Then, to Piao's delight, he claimed it was good and urged her to try it too. Excited, she eagerly took a bite, only to immediately spit it out because it was overwhelmingly salty and practically inedible. Wondering how it had turned out this way, she suddenly realized her mistake and sheepishly admitted that she had accidentally used vinegar instead of soy sauce. Wei, watching this revelation unfold, seriously questioned if she had been sent by the universe just to test his patience. Undeterred by her first failure, Piao insisted that Wei try her soup, confidently assuring him that he would love it. Wei reluctantly took a sip, but his expression remained unreadable. Curious, Piao decided to taste it herself, but before she could, Wei quickly stopped her and dramatically declared that the entire soup was his because it was so delicious. Overjoyed, Piao beamed with pride, convinced she was a culinary genius. However, when Wei took another sip, his face finally betrayed the truth. The soup was just as disastrous as the rest of the meal. Still, rather than hurt her feelings, he bravely forced himself to drink it, silently praying for survival. Feeling triumphant, Piao decided to give herself a grand title and confidently announced that since Wei liked her cooking so much, she should now be known as Little Kitchen God Wei. Now, at his wits' end, glared at her in disbelief, wondering how someone could create such a disaster in the kitchen, yet still think they deserved a title for it. Later, as Wei was peacefully reading a book, Piao showed up and enthusiastically suggested they play Chinese chess. Wei, surprised, asked if she even knew how to play. Piao confidently claimed she did. However, as the game began, it became painfully clear that she had made up her own set of rules. Not only was she winning with these absurd rules, but she also seemed completely unaware of how wrong it all was. Unable to tolerate the nonsense any longer, Wei refused to continue. Piao, genuinely confused, asked why he was quitting so soon, but he was already done. After she left, he took a deep breath, trying to calm himself after experiencing what could only be described as the most frustrating chess game in history. Meanwhile, Piao decided to clean the entire house, but her method of cleaning was more of a chaotic game. She moved around randomly, touching things, playing around, and behaving like an excited child. At one point, she approached Wei, telling him he had been sitting for too long and had probably gathered dust, so she took it upon herself to clean him too. As she continued tidying up, she accidentally knocked over an expensive showpiece of Wei's, breaking it completely. For a moment, she stood frozen, knowing she had just committed a major blunder. Wei, clearly furious, looked at the broken piece, but for some reason, didn't say anything. Realizing she was in deep trouble, Piao did what she did best, quickly ran away as if she had nothing to do with it. Later, Piao found herself in Wei's room, cleaning up again. When Wei needed help reaching his bed, she assisted him, but in the process, they lost balance and tumbled onto the bed together. Wei stared at her, while Piao, suddenly flustered by how close they were, quickly pulled away. Nervously, she announced that she would return at the same time tomorrow and then hastily left. After she was gone, Wei couldn't help but smile. He was slowly starting to like her more and more. Meanwhile, back in her own room, Piao was completely stressed. She told everything to her friend Xiao, complaining about how Wei was making her work all day, but didn't even bother complimenting her efforts. Xiao, surprised, asked if she was actually helping Wei. Then, with a teasing smile, she playfully suggested that maybe, just maybe, Piao was slowly falling for him. After all, when two people spend a lot of time alone together, feelings tend to develop. Piao immediately shut down the idea, scoffing that even if Wei were the last man on Earth, she still wouldn't fall for him. He was way too annoying. She insisted she was only helping him because he had gotten injured because of her. Plus, she had also accidentally burned his expensive coat. The next day, Piao was still asleep when Wei called and woke her up, demanding that she come over. Later, as they sat together, he meticulously calculated all the damages, how much she owed him for his ruined coat and the compensation for his injury. Shocked, Piao asked how she was supposed to repay him. Wei smirked and told her that she could make up for it by learning Tai Chi martial arts from him. If she mastered it, he would consider all her debts settled. Piao was confused. Was that really all she had to do? She had suspected all along that Wei knew martial arts, so why had he hidden it from her? Wei casually brushed off the question. Then he explained exactly how long she would have to train before he would forgive her. Initially, Piao agreed, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal since she already knew the basics of Tai Chi. However, she quickly hesitated and admitted that she would have to ask her grandfather first, as he had always forbidden her from demonstrating her Tai Chi skills in front of outsiders. Wei mentioned that he wanted to meet Piao's grandpa, leaving Piao completely shocked. She couldn't believe he actually wanted to visit her house, but Wei insisted and asked her to arrange a car. Piao, slightly confused but still cooperative, went to Xiao and asked her to bring the car so that they could go meet her grandpa. The next day, Piao brought Wei home, but little did they know that some university students were eagerly waiting to click their pictures. To avoid any unnecessary gossip, Piao quickly pulled Wei aside and called Xiao, asking her to bring the car immediately before anyone captured them together. Xiao, being her usual dramatic self, told Piao to wait, but just as she was about to leave, she saw Bai. Getting momentarily distracted by her love interest, she called out to him and cut the call. Piao, now absolutely stunned, wondered if Xiao had just betrayed her for her crush. Meanwhile, Bai greeted Xiao and suddenly pointed out that her tire was punctured. As Xiao bent down to check, she unexpectedly lost her balance and fell, injuring her leg. Bai, in his heroic mode, helped her up and insisted on taking her to a doctor. Xiao, overjoyed by his concern, completely forgot about Piao's crisis. On the other hand, Piao was growing increasingly anxious, waiting for Xiao to arrive. Before she could come up with another plan, reporters appeared and started taking pictures for the university news headlines. Just then, Tan called out to Piao, offering her a seat in his car, as if he was there to help. Piao, seeing no other way out, agreed, but Wei remained silent, fully aware that Tan was his enemy and wasn't helping out of kindness. As they drove, Piao curiously asked Tan where he was taking them. Tan smirked and replied that he had some unfinished business with Wei before dropping them at their location. Before they knew it, he drove them straight to a garage where faculty members were already waiting. Piao, clueless about what was happening, stared at Tan, who declared that they had reached the right location. He then asked Wei to step out of the car, clearly planning to teach him a lesson. But before things could escalate, Piao, in full action hero mode, grabbed Tan's hand and threw him away. Tan, taken aback, laughed and admitted that she was much stronger than he expected. He then revealed that she might be the mysterious Tai Chi master he had been searching for all this time. Piao, however, remained silent, simply glaring at him. Tan added that she had been hiding her identity quite well and he never expected her to be the one. Piao, remembering her grandpa's warning to avoid fights, hesitated, but seeing Wei injured, she decided she had no choice but to fight. Apologizing to her grandpa in her mind, she locked the car door and prepared herself. One of Tan's men was about to fight her, but Tan stopped him, confidently stating that he alone was enough to handle her. They started fighting, and while Tan was strong, Piao was in her full form. She attacked him so effectively that he struggled to keep up and was shocked at her strength. Piao, strategically targeting Tan's weak points, overpowered him quickly. Despite his best efforts, he lost. Seeing this, the rest of Tan's men got ready to fight, but Wei, watching from the car, casually commented that Piao would defeat them all in 5 minutes. However, when he looked out the window again, he was shocked to see that she had taken them all down in just 2 minutes. Tan, now teary-eyed and utterly defeated, whined about how unfairly she had targeted his weak points and demanded to know where she got so much strength. Piao, still hyped from the fight, proudly asked if she had done well. Wei, being his usual indifferent self, casually replied that it was just okay. This infuriated Piao, who started complaining about how he never complimented her and that she shouldn't have bothered saving him in the first place. Tan, recovering from his bruised ego, threatened to reveal Piao's secret identity. Just as Piao began to panic, Wei handed her a marker and suggested she fix their faces. Piao, amused by the idea, burst into laughter, scaring Tan and his men, who immediately begged her not to do anything. Later, Piao and Wei drove away, and Piao asked him to call her Grandpa. Wei dialed the number saved as the most handsome man in the universe. Piao informed her grandpa that she was bringing a friend home, all while driving at full speed. Wei, now gripping his seat for dear life, nervously asked if she even knew how to drive. Piao confidently replied that she was just as skilled in driving as she was in cooking. Hearing this, Wei mentally prepared himself for the worst because he had definitely tasted her cooking before. Finally, they reached Piao's home and she was already stressing about how to explain to her grandpa that Wei was just a friend. But before she could even say anything, her grandpa was already at the door, silencing her with a look and warmly welcoming Wei inside. Wei, feeling relieved, thanked him, but Piao immediately started defending herself, insisting that Wei had come on his own and that he was not her boyfriend. However, her grandpa gave her a fake smile and told her to be quiet, sighing about how she never seemed to grow up. Her grandpa excused himself, saying he needed to change since he had been working in the garden. Meanwhile, Piao, trying to be a good host, asked Wei if he wanted some water. When he said yes, she confidently walked to the kitchen. Meanwhile, in the boxing faculty, the defeated boys were whining about their injuries, panicking about whether Piao was really gone or if she was still lurking around. Tan assured them that she had left, and they all ran away, covering their faces in shame. Back at home, Piao returned with a glass of water, but instead of giving it to Wei, she handed it to her grandpa first. Her grandpa, once again smiling in frustration, reminded her to be polite to guests or people would think he had raised her poorly. Taking matters into his own hands, he handed the water to Wei himself. After Wei took a sip, her grandpa finally asked why he had come. When Wei introduced himself as Wan Chun Wei, Piao's grandpa was utterly shocked. It turned out that Wei wasn't just an ordinary person. He was the future successor of the main Taiji martial arts family. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, her grandpa immediately sent Piao away under the pretext of heating up food. Piao, confused, pointed out that it wasn't even mealtime, but her grandpa, unwilling to explain, simply pushed her toward the kitchen. Once she was gone, Wei mentioned that even his grandmother had once spoken about Piao's grandpa. Hearing this, Piao's grandpa was stunned, unable to believe that Wei had shown up despite the dark and painful history their families shared.